The U.S. and Iran are scheduled to hold a third round of negotiations this week. With a huge U.S. military presence in the region, President Trump is curious why Iran still hasn't made a deal.
U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee is responding to criticism after his comments in an interview with Tucker Carlson. CBN News Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl reports.
U.S. Special Envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are due to meet with Iran's foreign minister for a third round of talks in Geneva, Switzerland on Thursday. Witkoff says President Trump is puzzled that Iran hasn't already agreed to a deal.
Why under this sort of pressure with the amount of sea power, naval power that we have over there, why they haven't come to us and said, we profess that we don't want a weapon, so here's what we're prepared to do, and yet it's hard to sort of get them to that place.
With massive U.S. firepower in the region, President Trump is said to be considering preliminary limited military strikes to force Iran into an agreement. Israel is on its highest alert as it prepares for Iranian retaliation if the U.S. attacks Iran. In recent days, the IDF striking Hezbollah targets in Lebanon as the Iranian proxy would likely join the fight. Iran's president says the government will not yield to external pressure. The state news agency reports student protests at several universities following memorials for those killed in the January protests. Visiting U.S. Congressman Andy Ogles told CBN News in Jerusalem that regime change needs to be organic.
What we've seen over the last few weeks is that the Persian people, the people of Iran, want change. They want their country back. And so I think there's the opportunity for the United States to create that window for the Persian people to, assume their own destiny. But it has to be from the Persian people, the people of Iran. No American boots on the ground.
Ogles says the change would revolutionize Iran, the Middle East, and even the world.
They've destabilized regions all over, countries all over the world, and it'll be a huge shift and quite frankly opens up the opportunity at least for peace globally once Iran is no longer in the picture and quite frankly their global network of terror.
On the sidelines, Arab and Muslim nations condemned U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee's comment about the Middle East in an interview with Tucker Carlson last week. Carlson quoted from Genesis chapter 15 and asked Huckabee if Israel has a right to all that land. In part, Huckabee responded, it would be fine if they took it all. But the U.S. Embassy later pointed out it was taken out of context. Huckabee continued,
they're not asking to go back to take all of that, but they are asking to at least take the land that they now occupy, they now live in, they now own legitimately, and it is a safe haven for them.
He also said Israel isn't trying to take over Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, or Iraq, just trying to protect itself. U.S. Congressman Scott Perry, who is visiting Israel for the first time, told CBN News that the situation is complicated and it's important to see the facts on the ground.
A lot of people really don't fully understand what the people of Israel deal with on a daily basis, how close your adversaries are, and tactically the advantages they have based on terrain. All those kind of things are important for policymakers to know viscerally.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, all Ambassador Huckabee was doing was responding to what I consider a setup question. What's the grant? What's the promise to Abraham in the book of Genesis? And how broad is that geography? And when you read it, it's enormous. But that's not the situation on the ground in modern Israel today, and that's what he correctly pointed out. Here's the facts on the ground. The UN, under the mandate from the League of Nations, under the mandate that was granted to the UK after World War I, they continued that, and they called for a partition of Palestine into Israel and to a Palestinian state. What did the Palestinians do? What did the other Arab nations do to help their Arab brothers living there? Well, they declared war. And who won that war? Israel won that war. In the 1950s, they declared war again. There was another one. They lost that war. In 1967, there was another one. They lost that war. In 1973, there was another one. They lost that war. In all of that time, Israel kept offering them a Palestinian state. David Ben-Gurion famously offered them everything, including the Temple Mount, which was inconceivable, but he did it for the sake of peace. In every one of those opportunities, they never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity. They had plenty of time to create their own state. They had plenty of time for peace. They had plenty of time to recognize what the UN had recognized, that the Jewish people belong in their ancestral homeland. They've refused to do it, and that's why you still hear the call from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Let us not join with that. They are clearly the aggressors.